interpreting studies and practice, and a special thanks to Cristiano, I must say, for giving me the opportunity to participate in this series of free webinars on translation and interpreting. Well, the topic for today, as you see here, is training bilingual inmates for translation and interpreting tasks. And my intention is to present a research project about this effective communication in Spanish penitentiaries, and then the project and the design and implementation of a pilot training program for these bilingual foreign inmates. Well, let me start by the short introduction. Yes, you see, bon, Carmen Valero, Garces, you know, yeah, as Cristiano said, I'm teaching translation and interpreting at the University of Alcalá in Madrid. And I'm also the director of the Masters in Conference Interpreting and co-director of the Masters in Community Interpreting and Translation, that we call it Public Service Interpreting and Translation. So I'm also the coordinator of this research group that you see here on the top, say FITISPOS, that it means training, well, it's by initials in English is training and research in public service interpreting and translation. And so the project I'm presenting has been developed by members of this group of FITISPOS. But FITISPOS is also, I mean, as a group, as a team, we are also the editor of this multilingual and free access online journal that is called FITISPOS International Journal. And we also coordinate or are part of an association that we call AFIPTIPS. That is an association of trainers, researchers, and professionals of public service translation and interpreting. We are very active, as Cristiano said, and we are also we have also been researchers, especially in the field of communication, of communicative processes in public services connected with migration and foreigners. And here we have been this group. We have more than one decade just working on this topic. And this is in this slide, you can see some of the publications so far, as you have multilingual guides, resource books, brochures, research articles, and so on. And this group has also translated books and materials from English into Spanish related to community interpreting and translation, but also from Spanish into some of the languages spoken by migrant population in Spanish, such, for example, Arabic, Romanian, Polish, Russian, Chinese. We also, every year, we also organize seminars and different activities involving the master's students and, you know, people interested in PSAT. And so here you have one of the activities that most catches the students' attention is what we call the Global e-Party in PSAT. This is an activity based on the use of social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and so alongside with face-to-face workshop or informal meetings. And this global e-Party activity is included in the regional program called La Semana de la Ciencia or Science Week. It takes place every November. And we organize that since 2012. So, and every year we have a different topic for the students, just or anyone interested to interact. So for example, this last year the topic was be a change agent in PSAT, and the year before was women's voices in PSAT. Here we also have developed a series of introductory free course of MOOCs on PSIT or community interpreting. So far we have now developed one it's a training introductory course, and we have one on English and Spanish and Chinese. Well, here you have a link where you can have a look at it, and they are free, so they can be followed in the open educational blackboard.com platform. But we also, also provides training in different language combinations through these masters in intercultural communication and public services interpreting and translation. This masters is a member of the European Masters in Translation, or the EMT network. That is a network of masters acknowledged by the European Commission. And the master's is also integrated into a postgraduate program in the Department of Modern Languages in Translation at the University of Alcalá. The specializations of language combinations currently offered now are Spanish with Arabic, Chinese, English, French, and Russian. So they are language-specific courses. Well, let's go after this brief introduction. So let's just talk about communication in prisons. Well, FITISPOS has carried out extensive research about communication in penitentiaries. We started in 2011. By this year, the University of Alcalá established relationship with the Spanish Directorate General for Penitentiaries through the masters in PSIT. And so the main goal was to sign an intensive agreement for our students, for our master's students, and permission was also granted to conduct some research. Well, the main objective was to identify, the communication problems with non-native speaking offenders, because, with migration by the beginning of the 21st century, there was also an increase in the numbers of prisoners that they didn't know Spanish. So, well, there was sort of a need of this. And so that was our main goal, and develop a coordinated projects and actions with the Spanish Directorate General for Penitentiaries. But all the different topics that, projects that we have developed so far, all of them are based on this methodology of research action. So we always the first step is contextualizing the situation, then getting data, analyzing this data, and analyzing the results into actions. And the desired outcomes obviously are to generate knowledge and always go a step further in developing coordinated actions with the Spanish Directorate for Penitentiaries, just to promote rehabilitation and the integration of inmates into the society. Research revealed that entering prison is an emotionally challenging situation, and communication, both oral and written, is essential to socially reintegrate. However, we know that resources are very limited or non-existent when dealing with foreign inmates. So some of the solutions so far are, using staff members who either know the inmates' native language or use the lingua franca, English or French, or sometimes Arabic. Using other inmates as ad hoc interpreters, training some staffs in foreign languages, usually English or French or Arabic, or training the bilingual inmates in Spanish, or translating some materials into other languages. Well, but research also demonstrated that these solutions are not enough to cope with the language and culture barriers in daily life, in prisons, inside the prison. And so with this data in mind, we just get into the next step was action. And the result of after this research has been just to develop 2 books in a training course. The books, here you have them, are in Spanish, and one of the books is aimed at prison staff with the title in English, Guide to Good Practice in Working with Translators and Interpreters in Prison. En Spanish, Guía de Buenas Prácticas sobre cómo trabajar con traductores e intérpretes en el ámbito penitenciario. Under the other textbook, the other book is basically as a textbook and is addressed mainly to bilingual, non-Spanish speaking prisoners, and basically it's introduction to translation and interpreting in prisons, and in Spanish it's Manual de Introducción a la Traducción e Interpretación en Centros Penitenciarios, curso básico. Well, as for the development of these actions, so the project has been developed as a coordinated approach between FITISPOS, the FITISPOS research team, and the Spanish Directorate General for Penitentiaries, the prison staff inmates from the chosen penitentiary, and also the master students and trainers. So the prison staff provided us with brochures, information about daily life, also legal documents, booklets, any information that they have in general related to the prison, or just to the regime, the internal regime they have. Well, the inmates provided us with vocabulary, sometimes in slang or in the languages they knew, or even ideas for role plays for the practical part of the training course. The MA trainers obviously help with the development of the materials and activities that will be integrated in the course, and some of them also contributed in the on-site interpreting classes. And of course, and the master's students, they contributed, some of them contributed translating materials into Arabic, Russian, Romanian, English, or French. That were the language combinations that we had in the course, and obviously under the supervision of the internship advisor. Well, getting there, I mean, just to get this book involved a series of actions, because first we have to decide which of the authorized center will serve as a pilot course, or sorry, as a pilot center. This is quite a rather long and complicated process. First, because each penitentiary is quite autonomous in terms of internal organization and rehabilitation activities. The number of foreigners is also different in each penitentiary, as well as the access restrictions for the research team, and the interest in cooperation on behalf of the penitentiaries was also different in the penitentiaries. Well, finally, the chosen pilot penitentiary was one in the region of Aragon, about 300 kilometers from Madrid, in the northeast of Spain, so quite far from the University of Alcalá. But this was chosen for several reasons. First, because the management team was very welcoming. Also, there was the possibility of having a group of inmates from different languages ready to follow this training action, and the collaboration of the educators and inmates in the design of and implementation of the action was really positive. So once we decided, the place was decided, the next step was to establish a series of visits to this penitentiary and to request the necessary access permits. And after that, Several meetings took place to set the didactic objectives, search for materials, decide on the type of the format, or set the timetable according to the rules of access to the penitentiary. And we also had to set out the number of languages of the volunteer interns who would like to follow the course. And this course has also to fit within, as an activity within the set of different activities, courses, and jobs that are offered in the penitentiary center in order to promote social reintegration. So, well, after all this, you see the result was this textbook, Introduction to Translation and Interpreting in Prisons. This course has the book, it's structured into 8 units, and each of which follows the same structure, and the language is Spanish. So as for the structure, so first, I mean, there is a module 1 contains information about the prison facilities and the staff, and covers aspects such as admission to the center, training and recreation in the penitentiary center, rights and duties of inmates, or how to make a complaint, or the requests, or topics like this, just to know the penitentiary centers and all the, sometimes legal issues related to that. Then there is a second module just dedicated mostly to notions and concepts of translation and interpreting. So in that case, some concepts are explained, also strategies or resources for translators and interpreters. And it also includes information about intercultural communication, the importance of terminology and documentation, registers and levels of specialization, practice about some translators and interpreters' competences, or the code of ethics and good practice, and more. These 2 modules are followed by some exercises and some readings. Some of them compulsory and some of them are optional, just to complete the activities and also expand their knowledge. Finally, there is a self-evaluation in the form of a multiple choice exercise. And this self-evaluation is followed by the key answer, so the students can just check. So on the right, you can see an example of, in that case, the unit 3. And here there are also some, you have some activities and examples of some of the activities included in the manual. So there is a variety of tasks, and also with varying or with different degrees of difficulty, just to practice, essay translation, also memory, voice, problems with vocabulary, taking notes, and just exercises connected with that, always using, and some of the sources for text, for the exercises include, the Spanish Penitentiary Code, extras from legal documents, as for example from the immigration law, or from the rules of the internal regime, brochures, for example, the prison step by step, where basic information is provided. To any inmate, and also materials, any material provided by the staff or by the inmates, because we always try to, using authentic material, just also to call the attention to the students, and because it's more practical, yes, in terms of being, yes, useful and call the attention to the students' essays. Well, as for the course design, after the design and for the course implementation, once the textbook was ready, the next step was to design the course. So, as mentioned before, the chosen site was this penitentiary in the region of Aragon, in the northeast of Spain. And the course was designed as a blended course, including both on-site and online classes. The duration was 8 weeks, divided into 4 hours per week in sessions of 2 hours, 2 days per week. So that will be 1 unit per week. During four lessons were on site and the rest were online. So I mean the trainers, I mean basically I was there as a part, I mean the leader of the project, and just because getting permission was not always easy for for different reasons. So I was present there in the 2 initial sessions, and also we were also in the last one. There was also present a team of trainers of different languages just for the interpreting practice. And in the remaining sessions, the inmates work by themselves in the computer room. And for the development of each class, the student had to take into account the following 5 parts. So first, they have to listen into an audio containing a narrated PowerPoint with an overview of the unit content. Second, reading the extended information from Module 1 in the manual and writing a summary. Third, they have to read the extended information from Module 2 and answering questions individually, and then commenting in a group. Four, carrying out the activities. Carrying out the activities that could be accessed in the electronic additional annex.
Carmen, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your PowerPoint disappeared. Go back to the bottom of your screen. You will see the PowerPoint at the bottom there.
Yep. Should I go?
You are already in the meeting. You don't need to get into any more meeting. Just minimize that screen. Take your cursor to the bottom. You will see your PowerPoint down there.
My PowerPoint is here.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, well, you see, I was just describing, I mean, so this is basically, I mean, the different steps that for each unit. So, at the end they have these practical exercises, but also, as I said, the self-evaluation with exercises and after completing, I mean, all the activities, they have this self-evaluation and the answer key. But let's see, as for the assessment, prior to start the lessons, all the materials that the students had on paper would have been downloaded on the computers in the classroom. So the students who were completing the course also appointed a student responsible for coordinating the rest of the students. And this student was also responsible for, commenting doubts or taking notes of any concern about the content or difficulties the students had. So he was also responsible of collecting the activities of each student at the end of each unit, and then giving them to the supervisor in the center, who in turn will send them to the head of the training program to Alcalá. So this is basically the way we work for that, for the development of the course. Well, the students profile. This first edition of the course was held during the months of April and May of 2018 in the chosen penitentiary. And there were 7 students, 5 of they were foreign citizens, and their nationalities were Moroccan, Russian, Italian, Dutch, and Albanian. So, and there were the other two were Spanish. One was fluent in English, and the other one was fluent in French. And all of them, the 7, said that they spoke more than 2 languages other than their mother tongue, with Spanish and English being the languages that practically all the students claim to know. However, throughout the course, it was found that such knowledge of languages, especially in the case of English and even in some cases in Spanish, even though they say they consider themselves bilinguals, was quite basic. But and all of them also reported having experience interpreting for the staff or colleagues or translating documents. Well, but everyone showed great interest in the course from the beginning, and according to the prison supervisor's comment, some of them spend more time, even after the lessons. I mean, after the hour set in the computer room, they usually met and complete some activities together. And some students, we know that some of them also dedicated part of their free time just reading the text or finishing some of the tasks, because some of them claimed that the Spanish was difficult for them. I mean, just being able to read the articles provided, it was sometimes difficult for them. But finally, everyone completed the course. Is that, well, there was one student who after 2 sessions could no longer attend due to internal issues. But in their place, there was, in his place, there was another different student. So 7 students completed finally the course. Well, as for the main conclusion, say that the project has helped develop a better understanding of the situation, also generate more awareness about communication problems, especially for the staff, the prison staff. It has helped to develop some solutions and maybe, get some consensus about the need to use professional interpreters as the best solution. But we know that we still have, there is a long way to go, as illustrated by some comments made by the inmates and staff about communication, because literally both the inmates and the staff of the center consider that the prison itself, each prison itself is a multicultural place, where the differences between them and the differences between them are, they are usually resolved using the communicative strategies available to them, that we know are gestures, drawings, use of short phrases or words of the languages they know. And this is the situation that it's there and not easy to change inside the prison. However, well, all of them see the course as a very good opportunity to improve their, at least their communication skills. Perhaps in the future help them improve their positions, both in the penitentiary and outside. Next steps. Well, we know, we are modifying the course accordingly, to each specific penitentiary, and just trying to implement it in other penitentiaries. And so one of the first actions to be carried out this coming spring is going to be the use and adaptation of some of the activities included in the manual, and they are going to be used in the foreign language classes and also in the classes that are Spanish for foreigners. So we are going to adapt them and include in these classes. And this is going to be implemented in one of the penitentiaries in Madrid, so closer to the University of Alcalá. And well, finally, but it has been a great experience. And here you have just a comment, but in this magazine, Digo, It's a magazine that the inmates from this penitentiary center published. And they include, they include this comment. There is they include like a report of the course, and they at the end included this comment you have there. So, well, it's what's good for them and good for us. Well, here you have some, in case you are interested in the manual and in the Guía de Buenas Prácticas. Well, here you have the references. They can be get through the publication service of the University of Alcalá. And if you are interested on research, here you have some references of some of the projects we have conducted, projects or articles we have written about this research we have conducted in prisons. We are still in touch. We have permissions for developing these actions, but and we hope just to continue with this information, with this research. So if interested to participate, or if interested to know, or just getting more information about this, just let us know. We'll be just happy to hear from you. And that's all for now. Thank you so much.